All right. So I'd like to tell you about my favorite physics phenomenon, which is not something that you would think of immediately. So it's not something that physics is very well known for, maybe something from special relativity or something weird from quantum mechanics. It's a really, humble little phenomenon. Nevertheless, it has a place really close to my heart because it was part of the reason why I decided to study physics and not go to med school as I had planned earlier. So here's the story. I'm 19 years old. I'm working in a hospital because at the time in Germany, you had to do some mandatory service, either in the army or do something else. And so my work in the hospital was in an X-ray facility where I had to prepare a contrast agent. So essentially, this is just a solution of barium sulfate that gives you a nice contrast in the X-ray if you need an X-ray of your stomach or of your intestines. So this is essentially a shake made from a powder and some water, and I had to put it in a beaker, give it a shake, and then people would have to drink it. So it was a white, very viscous, sticky liquid. And so one day I accidentally flicked the lid of this beaker on the table, and so of course you can imagine there's some of that sticky liquid on the lid, and it falls down on the table, and I pick it back up. And so yeah, what do you think I see there? So it's not just a circular blob. It's this very interesting branched snowflake-like pattern. And that really gave me pause, and I thought, like, okay, wow, what's happening here, right? And this is a very simple mechanism. It's called Saffman-Taylor instability or viscous fingering. But at the moment, I was like really fascinated that something, this fairly intricate pattern seemed to be appear out of nowhere. And so, I never got into this topic really deeply. I never sort of pursued this kind of, maybe research related to that. But to me, this thing has all the elements of what I appreciate about science. First of all, it was unexpected, right? So I didn't expect to make this observation. And I think that's something, it's a privilege we have in our job. Sometimes if we're lucky, we observe something that we really didn't expect. And I think for me, at least, these serendipitous things are the most motivating. And the other thing about this little observation is that you get a very intricate pattern with a fairly simple mechanism. And to some degree, that's still something that I'm interested in, although we are now looking at living systems and the mechanisms are much more complicated, but it's still about creating patterns from a very simple starting point. Right? If you think about it, we all start as sort of an amorphous blob of cells, more or less, spherically symmetric, and we turn into this fairly, complicated pattern over the course of development. So yeah, in essence, this observation, motivated me to study physics, and so I'm here today. Well, that's my little story. Everybody hang in there, and I keep my fingers crossed that we can go back to the lab very soon and make surprising, serendipitous observations. That's it.